Well, what, no interruption this time?
Hmm?
I finally win! Welcome to episode 143.
Boobs.
I knew it. I knew it was coming. I was gonna cut you off right there. Episode 143 of the Shadow Kvlt podcast. Ricky?
143, cabrones!
What he said. Anyways, so the 5-man gang here. Well, right now, just 4 of us.
4.
Boss is eating dinner, but he'll be back.
Cuatro.
But for now, it's Ricky, Scott, James, and myself. And
And you just made the list.
Timing again.
it never fails. It never fails.
Change it then.
Turn your
No,
volume down.
I like to be torturous to myself. I'm a fucking masochist and a sadist, I guess.
Whatever you do in the privacy of your own room is your own business. Here, we're doing a show here, young man.
Yeah, but anyways, so tonight's
Website.
yeah, onlyfans.com/spreadlord.
Just
Again, whatever you do in the privacy of your room on your time is your business.
Who said it?
secretly, he loves Diablos and Música. Secretly, he's listening to Catharsis while jerking off.
Why do we even have that level?
Anyway, what are we talking about tonight?
Same time.
Meanwhile, I got levered on Twitch. Somebody decided to pull the lever, crunk. So,
Don't you mean pull the plug?
don't you mean it's time to talk about the episode tonight? So, tonight's episode, it's, can't remember if we've done a debate before, or if this is the first one we've done. I'm pretty
Well, it's
certain
probably
this is
just
the
going to end
first
up being
one.
a discussion, because it's
It's
not
a
really going to be
debate.
much of a debate.
Yeah.
Because
Eh,
there's
you know.
really no sides in this.
No.
But the topic is part-timers in wrestling, most specifically WWE, considering when you think part-timers in wrestling, you think WWE, especially over the last 11, 12 years, roughly.
Maybe
When,
15 years.
if
probably.
that. If
Longer.
that. Yeah. Because after all, whenever we talk about part-timers, well, not us particularly, but like a lot of wrestling fans like to look down upon part-timers in pro wrestling, and basically we're here to talk about that. What's good about it, what's bad about it, solutions to
Now-
make people happy, or what have you.
Before we get
I
into
have
this
a solution.
discussion, what would Smart Mark think about part-timers in pro wrestling?
It is understandable that the people in the business who only show up every once in a while to collect a paycheck and put in a half-ass performance are lame and nobody wants to do business with them. I know from the internet that this is the way everyone feels, and if you think differently, you are stupid and should go away. That is the way it is. I am right. You are wrong. Yes.
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 Now, what about Mr. Actually?
Oh, God.
Is that a character now?
Well, actually...
The situation is when you have a part-timer, they are there to help boost the ratings and the buying rates of the pay-per-views. So they actually, why do I sound like Cartman? So they actually do better when done business in the long run. That is why we want to have them, because they help the business out. Thank you.
He's not fat, he's festively plump.
At work?
But no,
Sorta works.
Smart Mark, he said something about nobody liking them, and because he saw it on the internet, it must be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
But yeah, why don't we get into the discussion? So yeah, the prevalence of part-timers in pro wrestling, especially in WWE. So yeah, a lot of the hardcore wrestling fans really hate the concept of part-timers in pro wrestling because they feel they take spots from the full-timers who are there. Yes, I will agree, there are downsides, and we will talk about those, but how about we begin by talking about the positives of having part-timers at the top of the card or being there. I'd say let's get the most obvious positive out of the way, and that's fucking money. Yeah, fucking money.
Sales. Money talks.
So
Because at the end of the day, wrestling is about one thing: money.
Yep,
So I figured, why not let Scott take the helm on this part?
So part-timers are basically, I'm going to basically solve the problem right now. The issue has nothing to do, I think, with the function of a part-timer in the wrestling business, because you could say independent organizations use part-timers when they bring a star in to their shows. What's the purpose of that? To sell more tickets. Why? To get more people there to see their local talent and their roster perform at hopefully their level, because there's going to be a bigger crowd. That's what the stars do for those indie shows. Been down that road many times. And it does work if properly promoted. I think the issue comes down to simply language. And it is the fact that the term part-timer is used as the description for these people, when in the classic wrestling territory days, there was another word for it. Gentlemen, can you guess what the word is? I'll give you a clue. It starts with A. If you had a territory in the 70s, you had a set roster, and then somebody like Abdullah the Butcher comes in, or Bruiser Brody, what are they called?
Attractions?
Attraction. So if that was to be used, the terminology used now instead of part-timer, I think there'd be a little bit more understanding of what that particular person's job is. That's all they're there to do. John Cena now. Edge. Brock Lesnar. Ronda Rousey. You know, Charlotte in some capacity nowadays.
Roman Reigns is becoming that attraction.
Because the more people want to see you, the way you generate heat is by what?
Not being there all the time.
Got it. So that makes people want to see you more, which means when you are advertised, they're going to pay money to come see you. Hence, an attraction. But usually this is people who have earned that spot. You know, like we just said, John Cena, Edge, Brock Lesnar, all that stuff.
Ray to some extent too.
Ray to some extent. Some extent. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer now, and we went with that. So the benefit, the positive of a part-timer / attraction is to help boost ticket sales, pay-per-view buys, ratings, to help business go up. So that's the main benefit I can see for having part-timers in the business.
The biggest positive at all. Biggest positive of all. Because, because a lot of the wrestling fans still don't understand the concept that pro wrestling, first and foremost, is a business. You are there to make money. If you're not there to make money, why are you in the business?
Tony Khan?
Exactly.
To show our artistic skills.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's been
Shut
the
up, you
thing.
fucking Mark.
But
I do have a second benefit, and this is not business wise. This is locker room wise, because a big benefit of having the part timers is they can be a great source for knowledge and experience. Edge has talked about how much he is become like the safe.
Scott?
This
is a rare occurrence.
Scott's the one that froze.
For a minute
what a way to freeze. Freeze frame.
I thought I was
What's his caption? Wrong answers only.
Shove mayonnaise down my throat. I don't know.
Why do I have the feeling? Why do I have the feeling that magic is doing something?
Maybe that could be it. That could be it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, but while we wait for Scott to come back, I was going to talk about, like, back to the business side of it all, is that, let's say, because I still think WWE shows like the pay-per-views are still on actual pay-per-view, maybe very few providers, but let's just say you have an old school fan who's been lapsed for many years. They're watching TV one night and they see an advertisement for, say, WrestleMania 39, and they think, huh, and they would see like Brock Lesnar or Goldberg or something, and they could be like, I remember those days. I remember the Bork Laser and the Glodbug. And you never know. They'll probably end up buying the pay-per-view for the maximum price and not only get to see, and Scott's back, not only get to see their old favorites, but they might get turned on to some of the newer stars that they don't know about, and they might be able to come back to watch the product and follow new favorite wrestlers. Like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, WrestleMania 39 this year's, let's say, hypothetically, not counting Peacock numbers, did 50,000 pay-per-view buys by a bunch of people who bought it on actual pay-per-view. And let's say the price was $70 for the Super HD because it's WrestleMania. You equate that business-wise, that's $3.5 million extra to the company's pocket, and they could use that money to either hire white-hot indie talents or pay enough money to John Cena to have one final match. Either or, it would work, so that's another thing about the business. Now, Scott, you were saying before, I assume magic had something to do with
She must have something to do with that. She's looking at me right now, and I'm watching you. I'm watching you. Don't look at me like that.
She's doing some magic tricks.
Mm-hmm. She's doing stuff.
She is magical.
So, so I was talking about before is the benefit of having part-timers who are usually more experienced workers in the locker room to be sources of knowledge and experience. Edge is becoming that nowadays. He's a safe voice for everyone to come to and ask questions and get straight feedback. The Undertaker was like that for years. And incidentally, The Undertaker has pretty much been an attraction as far as a worker is concerned and part of WrestleManias and so forth for the better part of a decade. So it's like, what was the harm? No one was bitching about him being a part-timer, were they? Not that I remember.
No.
So because everyone got that, it's like the one time a year Santa Claus is coming, the Undertaker's here, yay!
Yeah.
So it's fine. So that's the other benefit of the part-timers because they're usually the ones with more experience. Depending on who it is, I don't know how much people want to go to Goldberg for advice about the business per se. Maybe about other things, about how you can sell yourself and market yourself and become a huge star in and of itself. That's fine. But the workhorses like Edge, John Cena,
Brock,
Brock, and so forth. They be the people that come around every once in a while that everyone can tap into. There's a great story that Austin Theory told about getting to meet John for the first time when he was in developmental and went down to the PC training. You know, it's a great story about that. You can find the Chris Van Vliet interview with him. It's a good story.
Another benefit for part-timers, and this is something that we have noticed over the past couple of years. They come to put new talent over. It's like the main butter. Look at John Cena. He came back, put Roman over.
And then Austin Theory recently.
Right, and Austin Theory. Look at Taker. He came back, put Roman over.
Brock put Roman over.
Yeah, even Brock put Roman over.
Mm-hmm.
So part-timers also help new talent become over because without part-timers, sometimes, I mean, who's gonna? I'm not gonna say that they don't care.
From a credibility standpoint.
Yes.
Called passing the torch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Andre in about 87 when he put over Hogan at WrestleMania. By that point, Andre, he'd been the biggest attraction for 15 years, putting over the next big star. And by this point, Andre was sort of becoming a part-timer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then another, and probably one of the other biggest benefits of all, especially in the recent years of WWE, like the last 10 to 15 years, probably the second biggest benefit of having part-timers in the company is countering one of the biggest problems that, not so much a problem now since Triple H had taken over booking. He's been trying to do a balance with a lot of talent, but prior to that, having the part-timers at the top of the card countered a problem, and that's overexposure with where we constantly would see the same guys every single week, the same matches every single week. It would get to the point where nobody truly felt special. And whenever you have a guy like Cena, Brock, even for a bit The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, so Edge at the top of the card as a part-timer, and it made you want to see, like what Scott was talking about, made you want to see them more. And then probably the biggest controversial opinion of them all with this whole thing, but part-timers are the perfect world champions. Brock Lesnar, once again, talking Brock. James pointed it out in his WWE Championship video series that he did the past couple of weeks. Yeah, it's like, I remember I didn't like it at first because I was dumb, didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, but as I've gotten older and come to knowledge from a guy who's been in the business, this guy right here, I finally understood why they would go down that route, is because you're making the championship mean something, and every time a title match happened, it was a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And yeah, guys like Roman right now are the perfect world champion because it makes the belt feel like this hidden treasure that everybody's trying to grasp, and not only do you have to take it, but you have to beat the tribal chief just to bring the belt back to regular television, essentially. It's like this big giant chase. And it's really cool to hear that and see that. So, controversial opinion, but part-timers are the perfect world champions in today's wrestling because of that word, attraction.
And hell, you could say in the old territory days, the NWA World Champion was a part-timer.
Yes.
Going from territory to territory.
Around. They come around
because
once a year.
Flair wasn't in a territory... Not main territory until like the mid 80s.
Right. Yeah.
When Harley was champion.
Around. Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk. Goddamn, and everyone in between, Jack Briscoe and Dusty and all those bounced around the different territories. They weren't there full time. They'd be there for a week at a time and then move on to the next one. That's part time, isn't it? It wasn't the business.
Wasn't until the mid 80s when the NWA was basically Crockett,
right,
where the NWA champion became full time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another thing too is,
boss.
Hey, what's up? Sorry, I'm back. I'm back from my dinner, but I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys talked about this, but another aspect you have to take in with part-timer being the world champion, they draw the most. Brock, when he came back, when he was champion, he drew. When Hogan came back, he was a part-timer. He won the championship. He drew to a lesser extent when he came back in 02. Like, he wasn't going to be as big as he was in the 80s and even the 90s, but he was still a relatively big name.
He's still Mr. Wrestling.
Yes. Goldberg, he drew. To a lesser extent, when he was a part-timer, he drew. And the people always make the argument, why are they not putting it on the new talent and always put it on the old talent? Because the new talent hasn't drawn yet.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing. And Scott, you can most likely agree with that.
Yep.
The people of old will always draw bigger than the people of new. No matter what territory, no matter what company, those people are always going to draw.
Yeah.
Yep. The classic.
So that's always my argument. Even though in the long run it may not work, but as business wise, you can't go wrong with making a little bit of extra moolah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that because I'm gonna talk about one of the shows that I went years ago. It was a local promotion. I don't remember the name of the promotion. Oh, and Boss is gone.
And now he's back.
Now he's back.
Continue.
So this local promotion did a six-card match. The sixth match was a surprise match that wasn't going to be announced until like a week before the show. And I bought my ticket because I don't care what was the main event. I'm still going to go watch Mexican wrestling. Until like 3 days before the show, they announced the main event of El Hijo del Santo, Blue Demon Jr. versus Villano 3 and Dos Caras.
Whoa.
Which, it was a tag team match, which, at this point, they were part-timers. They're considered part-timers.
Mm-hmm.
The ticket sales on that venue sold like crazy because
Mm-hmm.
these are four legends of lucha libre wrestling, and of course, it was gonna make the biggest draw, and that helped the show for the other talents to get paid quite better and gave them more exposure, and they started going different places. But like I mentioned before, part-timers do that too. They help the business financially, giving the lesser talent exposure and become future superstars.
That's how WCW succeeded for so long.
Yep.
And
When
even with
when
No,
when
go ahead,
Hogan
go ahead.
came back in '93 for WrestleMania. Last time WrestleMania drew 400,000 until WrestleMania 14. Why? Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Say all we want about how bad the show was or whatever, but Hogan drew that show.
Right.
He drew money.
And then
You're never gonna beat a nostalgia act. Nostalgia always wins.
Hell, you could say Hogan was the original, part-timer in the WWF, because when he came back in 93, was the champion, was there via satellite, and then dropped the belt.
Yep. And then,
another
and then I was going to bring up probably one of the last pros before we get into the downsides of it all. Probably another benefit is that with having the part-timers in the company, it creates a hierarchy of cards for pay-per-views. Like, yeah, Big Four pay-per-views are always going to have part-timer city because they're the Big Four. And then the B shows, it gives the B shows like their own kind of glass ceiling to work extra hard to make those shows just as good as the Big Four. I mean, hell, let's look at recently
Backlash.
let's take a look recently since Triple H took over creative. Pretty much every B pay-per-view we've gotten since then have been getting better and better, as it seems. Like Extreme Rules, pretty good show. Crown Jewel, best Saudi show, no question. And then Elimination Chamber back in February, great show. It's like the B shows are doing their best to deliver as much or try and surpass the Big Four shows because they're working extra hard to make those shows mean just as much. So when you have the part-timers around, it makes the full-time talent work extra hard to make their stuff mean just as much. Now,
And there's some motivation there, because at some point, some of those guys want to become where a Roman and a John and a Brock is. So it makes them work harder. Because eventually, when they go away, you get the next crop, and then so on and so forth.
the never-ending cycle of talent.
Yeah, and another thing I was about to add too is not only will the B pay-per-views get a little bit better with the new talent that the part-timers aren't there, when you are eventually going to go up against the said part-timer, you have a story rising up, and you can get a lot of momentum by getting a lot of big wins, a lot of pay-per-view matches, and getting all that big momentum. And eventually, you take the title off of the part-timer, or you defeat the part-timer, and it can either get you heat or it can get you massive pops. Look at what they were doing with Drew and Roman at the build-up to Clash. Drew had all the momentum in the world. Not to mention, he literally had everyone at his side. It was in Wales. It was in Scotland. He had everything on his side. The momentum he was been riding ever since he beat Brock at Mania 36, granted there was no crowds there, that was still a big moment for Drew because it got him more over as a babyface. You can do that and not sacrifice. You won't be able to sacrifice. What's the words I'm looking for? You won't be able to take away all the momentum or undo all the heat.
Yeah,
Like-
not sacrifice the momentum. I get what you meant.
Yeah.
Like currently, because we know Brock is gonna go against Cody at Backlash. Once Cody beats Brock, he's gonna be more over, a bigger baby face. You know,
Bigger
if you
mountain
can't
to
beat one
climb.
part timer, you can beat another one.
And then
You beat a
use
guy that people have rarely beaten.
Yeah.
Like,
And
look at
use that as the crutch to get another shot at the title down the road.
Like look at Roman when he beat Taker. That's like the biggest example I could think of right now. Roman was the hottest guy in that company at that point. Granted, they should have turned him heel after he beat Taker, but that's a whole story for another day. Look at when Seth beat Sting at Night of Champions. That got Seth a little more heat.
Look
Granted,
at when
he got-
Brock ended the streak.
Yeah.
Perfect
there.
example of a guy who was 500 heading into that point, gets one big win, and the rest is history.
Yeah, but that was more part-timer versus part-timer, in my opinion.
It
Because Brock-
still don't matter. It gave Brock.
I get what you're
beat
saying.
The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Enough said.
Yeah. And not to mention, even if you lose to the part-timer, you could still go over huge by putting on a really damn good match, or you could tell a
Not
really
having
good
to go
story.
over to get over. That Bubba Ray Dudley
Exactly.
philosophy.
You don't have to go over in order to get over.
And now, with the positives out of the way, now let's talk about the negatives of having part-timers in the cards, on top of the cards. Yeah, it creates a hierarchy of cards, like I talked about, but probably one of the biggest negatives I will say and will agree with, it does create a hierarchy in the roster. And that is probably the biggest thing that a lot of fans get worked up over. Let's use an example. Let's rewind 6 years ago, heading into WrestleMania 33. What was the biggest story going into that show? KO Jericho.
KO
Jericho.
KO Jericho was the big story because it was built for over 6 months through great comedy and great segments, promos, and then you get to the Festival of Friendship where KO turns on Jericho, and it's like, when you look back on that, hindsight being the way it is, that should have been the main event of 33 and for the Universal title, not second on the card for the US title. It's like such a huge downgrade considering how good the build was. And then they decide to take that Universal title and plop it onto Brock Goldberg. And this does get into that why I say it creates a hierarchy in the roster. Yeah, business-wise, on a more mainstream level, yeah, Brock Goldberg was the bigger draw than Jericho KO, even though story-wise, KO Jericho was far better in the storytelling department. And you could say that Brock Goldberg did not need the title to feel huge. It was a huge match no matter what you did. And you ended up sacrificing the biggest story heading into a WrestleMania. And that is definitely something I will agree and always be upset about when it comes to the part-timers, is that, yeah, they just get put into these spots because rather than going with the story. Like we talked about, like, people were saying, oh, Charlotte and Rhea should main event night 1 of WrestleMania, when Usos, Sammy, KO was the better story. Thankfully, they went down that route and went with the story instead of doing this just because. So, yeah, that is definitely a big, big negative, I would say, is the whole ordeal of hierarchy in the roster. And then the second negative, long-term wise, whenever it comes to building new talent, how else are you going to create the next big star if you're only going to be giving these guys the B shows to really flourish? Now, I'm not saying you can't do it, but there was a long period where they just were not doing that, except they were creating one megastar during a time when nobody wanted him to be the megastar, and that was Roman Reigns. Like we talked, like I brought up during the Roman Reigns rebooking episode we did, where, yeah, from Manias 31 through 34, Roman was in the main event against a part-timer. You had Brock, Triple H, Taker, Brock again. So it's like, that does create a hole in the argument, but the thing of it was, it's like I talked about, he was somebody nobody wanted to be the top guy at that point in time because of all the problems I mentioned in that rebooking episode. So yeah, and it was like Boss was bringing up, putting up part-timers against full-timers to try and get the full-timers over, but the only problem, especially in like 2016 and 2017, a lot of guys suffered because of part-timers, like Ambrose,
Yeah.
Wyatt, KO. Even Jericho suffered during that time, and he was full-time at that point. Despite mid-40s, he was going every single night. And even he suffered because of Brock and Goldberg and all these guys coming up and about. And the only guys that saw any kind of boosts in their stock were Roman Reigns and, to a lesser extent, Seth Rollins. So, yeah, that's definitely another negative to talk about is long term, how else was you going to create the next big star if this was what you were doing?
And another thing too to add to that, Levi, is the biggest example I could think of with what you just said was Brock versus Roman at Mania 34, because no one wanted anyone to win that match. Either you keep it on Brock, who's a part-timer, or you keep it on Roman, who they were forcing down our throats, and there was no Seth to cash in at all to save us from the first time.
Yeah, because
And
Corbin lost his cash-in match.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost to Ricky's favorite wrestler of all time, Jinder Mahal, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
You were being held with a double-edged sword. Either you keep it on a part-timer that never shows
Or put
up
it on a
and
guy
doesn't
that
want-
nobody wanted.
or you put it on Roman, who everyone and their mother hates. You're in a lose-lose situation.
Lose-lose
And
situation, yeah.
Thus, the match suffered heavily for it because A, no one cared, and B, the match sucked. If you don't have a good story and you don't have compelling wrestlers and have a compelling like babyface or heel, you are going to suffer big time. Styles kind of suffered a little bit, but he got big momentum when he took on Shane of all people, and arguably got more over in that match than Styles did when he went up against like maybe Cena. You can make an argument.
Yeah.
And
Again,
I'll risk you another one. Let's go back a bit further. WrestleMania 29. The Rock was the WWE champion part-time. Cena won the title. Cena was starting to become part-time. It wasn't until he dropped the title to Daniel Bryan when the title began to be a weekly
to
thing.
work less and less, yeah.
Yeah.
Gradually,
yeah.
Yeah.
A big negative too with the part-timers is the morale factor on your roster. Let's look at WCW in the ending years when you had the Mega Million top names that would show up part-time, even and would never be criticized or penalized in any way, shape, or form. They were still going to make their millions of dollars. And here's the younger guys, the newer guys, trying to get an opportunity, trying to get on TV, trying to get a pay-per-view match and work their asses off to get noticed, to get recognized, while these other guys who just kind of float in and out whenever they feel like it. Oh, I broke a hangnail, I can't come to work this week and still collect my paycheck. So what do? They want to get the fuck out of there as fast as they can. WWE, are you interested? Boom, boom, boom. So the overusing the part-timers and using them too long, like you guys were saying, is a detriment to your locker room's morale. And that's where everyone else is like, hello, we've been here. We've been busting our ass. Why are we getting this opportunity that you're just giving to them? We get it. They're time tested. You want to give them the opportunity? Cool. Why aren't you giving us the opportunity on television to get to that level? Is it because your writing sucks? Is it because you think we suck? Because nobody seems to be giving us any kind of background. And all those what-if scenarios start festering in their heads. And once it festers in one, it filters through everybody in the locker room. And sooner or later, you've got defection after defection after defection. People want to run and get off the freaking ship. Tony Khan, are you paying attention? So it's happened before, and it's happened again, and it will keep happening.
And that point you just brought up, you could even say that going back to the KO Jericho thing at 33, it's like, yeah, like I brought up, they worked their asses off for about, like I said, 6-7 months only to go on second at WrestleMania. And like even Jericho talked about on the Stone Cold podcast, Broken Skull Sessions, that was a bit of a factor in him leaving WWE because he felt that was a slap in the face. And I agree, that is a slap in the face. You work hard to build entertaining television only to be put in a lesser spot when you should have been much higher, considering people were loving that stuff. Although there is the opposite end of that argument, as that by putting in the hours every single week to build everything, they wound up overexposing themselves, and it ended up lessening their value, which actually created their own glass ceiling of drawing power. And just simply put, it's not fair to them to get treated like that when they worked so damn hard to entertain us.
And how the tables have turned.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how people are saying, it's kind of like going back to Sami and KO and the Usos. It's like saying they put all of this in. This is a year's worth of build, and let's say they're put like third on the card. Like that would
have been very, very terrible.
End the show there.
That WrestleMania crowd would have booed every single match afterwards.
They just would have been tired.
People would have left after that.
They would have hijacked it.
That was your main event. And what else?
Yeah.
Try topping that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about that for weeks. Like, if they didn't get put on last, they would have had the attitude of, okay, everybody, top that.
Mm-hmm. And also the fact that with part-timers, when a part-timer comes to a company like WWE, they demand X amount of dollars. And by the end of the year, they want to renew the contract. That's more money out of the revenue. And unfortunately, budget cuts have to come out. So in order to comply with the demands, budget cuts have to come in, release talent, cut expenses. So, it's a double-edged sword too.
And then going back to what Boss was bringing up about like storylines and stuff, that is honestly where we meet in the middle of all of this. And another solution that I would have, and thankfully we're kind of in that stage right now, because with Triple H taking over creative, like, yeah, he's not a perfect booker. There is no such thing as the perfect booker. Is he a really good one? Abso-fucking-lutely. And it's definitely a lot better now than it was years ago when stuff would just randomly end or be dragged on for too far long and stuff like that. Like Triple H is trying to find... Hold up. Triple H trying to find a balance, and that's ultimately what the biggest solution to the whole people want to hate on part-timers is, finding the balance of who gets to be on what episodes of Raw and SmackDown, the matches they get put into, and the work that goes into it. So really, when you boil down the pros and the cons of part-timers in pro wrestling, it's less of a problem and more of a scapegoat for the lack of quality that there was in B-show feuds, stories, angles, so on and so forth. So, like, take Bray Wyatt when he was WWE champion heading into WrestleMania 33 as well. Yeah, he wound up suffering due to Cena coming up and about, and Shane and AJ being the bigger story on the SmackDown side heading into 33. But really, when you boil down to it, none of this is the fault of the guys who are the part-timers. It was the fault of creative. Hell, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are both proof examples that WWE were capable of making full-time main event megastars between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Which, there you go. It's like, with the right booking, you could have a big-time main event roster solidified, and I think finally we're in that stage where I thought going back in 2017, 2018, it would have taken a few years to get to that point. I think we're now finally at that point now, where you have a pretty solid main event roster. Roman, Cody, KO, Sammy to a lesser extent, Seth, Drew, Lashley, bunch of guys.
As Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah. So yeah, we're finally now reaching the big solution. That's the balance. Like, we're finally seeing more guys get to be on top of the card instead of just the part-timers.
And if we're being honest with ourselves, this year, Brock ain't no part-timer. He's been full-time all year.
Yeah, because he's been showing up on a select number of Raws.
Yeah. Like two Raws a month, it feels like.
They were teasing a tag match with him and Cody versus Roman and Solo.
teasing that. Yeah,
He's been on TV more than Roman has.
yeah.
Who's the part-timer now?
Mm-hmm.
And another factor that you were talking about, Levi, here's another big thing. Blinded by nostalgia.
So Jack.
Nostalgia's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
See WrestleMania 18 when Hogan
Oh, yeah.
when Hogan pushed Rock and did the pose, and everyone was like, "Oh shit, it's Hogan!" And Hogan even looked like, "They're cheering for me. You want to switch this up? Okay, let's go."
Yeah.
but it's just like with the whole part-timers of the old days overshining the new talent, it's kind of like, then why do we care about the new talent? Here's the old talent. We love these old guys. Why would we care about the young talent now? Again, blinded by nostalgia. They shot themselves in the foot with that.
Yeah.
In that
Now,
case.
you would've-
Because think about it. Did Goldberg really need a title run in 2017 and in
No.
2020? No.
Not in
They
2020.
did it great because of nostalgia. Did they really need to have Brock win a title in 2018? Not really. Well, he didn't win the title in 2018. He won in 2017, but that's besides the point. Did he
Yeah.
really need the title at that point? No.
Not really.
It's like saying AEW is going to put the world title on Sting. Does Sting need a title run? God, no.
No.
Because
Can
the
he do a
dude is-
title run? No.
first of all,
No.
the dude's in his 60s with a bad back, and MJF is arguably the hottest heel in the world right now. Why would you want to cut the balls off from him only to put it on a guy that could barely walk? But knowing Tony Khan, he's probably got that idea floating in his head.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think he'd do
He's
that.
not that dumb. I don't think.
He's not that stupid. Then
He's
again,
he's
it's
not
only-
Jim Hurd levels of stupid.
Then again, he's the king of the marks. You never know.
Yeah.
But he's not that kind of mark that he'd put it on an old guy. He'd put the world title on one of the young bucks, or both of them, and freebird it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh
And let
god,
their
the
dad- let
elite.
their
Why
dad
not?
step in and wrestle too.
Put in the elite. Freebird the fucking title. Yeah, that'll make the title special.
They let their camera guy they went to school with be the third guy.
Freaking Cutlet or whatever the hell his name is.
Brandon
They
Cutler.
put Nakazawa in the world title spot.
Naka, not in this place anymore.
They put the world title on my grandma.
Dude, that's the hardcore title back in
Yes.
the Attitude Era. Everybody held. I think we were all hardcore champion at one point during the 24/7 rule.
Did we defend it in a
5 times.
hardcore evening gown match?
5 times.
Or if you're Raven 27 times? Yeah.
27 times.
He held it. Yeah, Raven's the king of the hardcore title.
I
Right.
He's held that more titles than frickin' Jeff Jarrett has won world titles, for crying out loud.
I think we've all been 24/7 champion at some point when the title was inaugurated. Because
8 times.
our truth was what 34 something title.
40 some. R-Truth is the most decorated champion in WWE history, technically.
Of any company, I think.
Unless you're
R-Truth
Lawler in
won-
Memphis.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. He's over 100. You're right. Yeah,
R-Truth
he's over
won the
100.
24/7 title as many times as his age. And he's in his
Yeah.
50s.
That's valid.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the subject at hand, part-timers.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think safe to say we, like what I said, we're kind of now in that stage where the part timers are actually working because we've got a bigger main event roster.
Yeah.
So
But there is one thing about part timers, which is kind of the dark side of this. Is some of these part timers, they don't want to leave the spotlight. I mean, we gotta be honest sometimes with these kind of wrestlers.
Hogan,
Like
Jericho.
nowadays,
not
That was
nowadays,
definitely-
but back in the
nowadays,
days.
yeah.
Back then, Debbie Hogan, Flair in some respect. A lot of those
Jericho
guys
nowadays.
didn't want to
Jericho's
give
the
up their
biggest prime
spot.
example I could think of.
the reason I say this because I was watching The Wrestler last night, and it dawned on me that of course a part-time wrestler still wants to essentially die in the ring, even though he's not as young as he used to be. So it's one of those things that part-timers still want to at least feel like there's something special to a younger audience. Nostalgia acts again.
And not just because we do his voice on the show, but Terry Funk is the perfect example of a part-timer. He comes in, does what he has to make the company better, and then leaves.
Yep.
Gets his paycheck, goes back to his ranch in Texas.
With the sick horse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could also say Flair is up there too, because look at how many times that he said he was going to retire. And
Yeah,
ultimately
Flair doesn't want to leave.
No,
No,
Flair,
he
no.
doesn't.
He still probably wants a match.
He still
Another
mentally
one.
feels like he's, still back in the mid '80s, partying all night as world champion and having hour draws every night with Ricky Steamboat.
I
He's still there mentally.
feel Flair is gonna want to have a match with Muda.
Well, I don't think Muda's done.
Muda's
I
done.
know
Muda's done.
Muda's done, but Flair being Flair, he's like
Flair versus Funk one more time.
Yeah, that'd be better.
A literal last man standing match.
Bottle of Geritol and a pole match, it's coming.
Bottle of Ensure match.
Yeah, whatever it
bottle
takes.
of Viagra.
Hey, Terry, would you have
Yeah,
one more match
Viagra
with
on a
Flair?
I'm still fighting Flair to this day. Are you kidding me? That old sumbitch had one of the worst matches I ever saw in my life. Are you kidding? What kind of tag match? Especially with that no-talented Jeff Jarrett in that damn match, too. How the hell do you have a Jarrett and a Flair in the same match? And it shits the bed. I shit myself more times a day than that match did in that time. I can't stand to see this anymore. If I was to take Ric Flair back in the ring one more time, you know what I would do to Ric Flair? I'd shoot him like I shot that jackass.
Clip
Yes.
that.
Yes, please.
But
Another example I can think of is Jerry the King Lawler.
Yep.
Think about
Lawler's
it.
never
Wasn't
retired.
Lawler like
Lawler's
an
never
indie world
retired.
champion in like Arkansas or something like that?
Oh, probably. It's still there's
Yeah,
some territory, probably some small indie that he still holds a title.
Well,
There's a
really?
lot of promotions like that nowadays that will just
The hell?
throw a belt on a name and then they don't book them again for a year and they come back and defend their title. And no,
Jerry in the WWE has pretty much been part-time his entire time there.
Yeah.
He would wrestle here and there,
Probably
do some
commentary.
business, and then do
Commentary.
But what I mean is in the ring, he
in
was
the ring, yeah.
he was
Part-time, yeah,
part-time in the ring, full-time commentary.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Jerry can do it for the style he has. He can still do it. When we're hearing about, and we'll get to this, pretty soon, probably too. When we're hearing that Will Ospreay, at not even 30 years old, is talking about the possible end of his career because he physically is starting to break down. Look at his career compared to Jerry Lawler, who, yes, the man just had a stroke, but he was still wrestling at 70, for God's sake.
And he's probably
Why?
still
Because
going to
it's style.
wrestle.
Yeah.
The dude had a heart
If he
attack
recovers
on live
again,
television.
because he has a
After
style
having a
and has a way of
match.
doing it. Mhm.
The fact that the majority of today's wrestling fans think that it's all about who has the biggest moves, the flying elbows, the over the top rope, through a ladder, through a chair. Basically,
I
the
can walk the
ECW
ropes and do flips.
Super kicks.
pretty much the ECW problem, but look at guys like
And that's going to be a
Lawler.
discussion later on and sometime in the
Next
future.
month.
Yeah,
Next
Yeah,
month.
look at a guy like Lawler. When was the last time you saw Lawler go that extreme? The only time I could ever recall was when he had the TLC match with Miz.
Yeah.
Even then, Lawler didn't really take bumps.
Maybe a steel cage match there and there that was too bloody, but never to the point of.
But he hadn't done extreme stuff since Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't as extreme as ECW extreme. To
Wrestlers
nowadays.
knew how to work the illusion
Right.
Mm-hmm.
of making it look real.
Looked better where you were hitting people with furniture instead of furniture being hit with people. So that's the difference there. When you've got, okay, in contrast, concession stand stomp, okay, where was that? Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, I think, compared to Ian and Axel Rotten with a Taipei death match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're One of these things is not
One
like the
draws
other.
money. One is looked at nowadays as, why the fuck did they do that?
People
One
know the music, but not the notes.
one is trying to beat the crap out of each other. The other one's trying to kill the living crap out of each other.
Yep.
One's doing business, the other is doing bullshit.
Mm.
And
But anyway.
another thing too, talking about the territories, even though they weren't, I don't know if they were really part timers, but look at the sheep herders. I mean, yeah, we know them as the bushwhackers, rest in peace. But look at when they were the sheep herders; they were violent as all living hell. Now you look at them when they were in the WWF in the early '90s; they were broken down because they beat their bodies to literal hell and back.
So they became a comedy act.
And got
Exactly.
over.
And
And that's
got
what people
over.
remember them for.
Exactly.
The bushwhacker, the bushwhacker walk.
That
I mean,
shit.
let's be fair. Most of the wrestlers in the territory days were what people would call part-time.
They were. Yep.
Exactly.
Because that's all wrestling was. It was all part-timers. There was no contracts. You know, unless you were homesteaded or the champion of a territory.
Or the
you could go
promoter.
anywhere you wanted. So, or the promoter, yeah. So the solution basically is twofold. Number one is, in the fans' eyes, throw the term part-timer away and go back to calling them what they are, an attraction. And that makes you understand a little bit more about what their business is to do. And that's on the fan side. On the business side, you have to make sure the part-timers are doing what they're supposed to do. They're helping to draw the house, sell the tickets, sell the pay-per-views or whatever. They're trying to help business. At the same time, they're being a benefit to the locker room and being a source of knowledge to them, not being a superstar who shows up late, goes into his own dressing room, and then goes out to the ring, does a lot of nothing, gets paid big, and then goes home. You don't want that. So that's where the morale factor needs to be positive, and make sure they don't overstay their welcome. So all the points we made is exactly what needs to be done. But as Levi said, that's what we're seeing nowadays. So it is working. It's just the mentality more now of the fans need to lighten up and see what the benefit is of this factor happening.
Yep.
Part-time is not a bad word. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it comes down to one thing.
Money.
His ash Mizunny.
You got it.
Money.
There's a seat. There's an ass over 18 inches. They're happy.
Well, I think that wraps up the part-time discussion. Now let's talk This Week in Wrestling. So,
So the draft is coming.
Yes,
Yep.
the draft.
1 week away. This was funny to me, and I mentioned this on my live stream last night. Someone actually had the balls to put in writing, "This is the actual beginning of the Triple H era of creative." Right. Okay.
Yeah. So with the draft coming up, let's make some predictions. What more or less could happen?
NXT
I think
call-up.
we should.
Roman's going to be the number one pick.
Yes.
yeah.
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 And he's
Yeah, Roman-
probably going to go to Raw, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
Even
Roman
though
and Raw-
with him with the one belt, he's on both shows.
Oh god, you know what that means? They're gonna bring back the red Universal title if he goes to
Maybe.
Raw.
Maybe.
But does it matter?
Because
I know,
it's
but
just one
It's a
belt now.
It's a color change.
Well, probably what I see happening if Roman goes to Raw, just drop both belts and just have one title.
Get the gold belt.
Yeah,
As
'Cause
long as they
everything he
don't
touches
split
turns to
them
gold.
again.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't split them
Yeah.
again.
Please don't
Fight
split
that
them.
urge.
So first draft pick for the men, Roman. For the woman,
Rhea.
Rhea.
Yeah, Rhea
No, but
to SmackDown.
Rhea or Bianca.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
they're more
actually-
invested in Rhea than
I don't want
Bianca. in all
to.
honesty.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see us. I want to see Rhea and Bianca stay where they are. I don't want to see the title exchange thing again, like they did with Charlotte and Becky.
Oh,
Right.
I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah,
again.
that was.
And I
So.
think, and I think we're going to see them unify the belts at SummerSlam.
They have
That's
to.
what I'm thinking too.
Because
That's
they
what I'm
teased
thinking.
they
I already
teased that
teased
match
that, yeah.
happening.
They've
the
already
night after
teased it,
WrestleMania.
and let's be honest, the women's division is not that strong when you
No.
have two of them You put them in one division, have the champion go back and forth. You need that.
Yep.
Yes.
Guess what? Not everybody is meant to be champion. These aren't participation trophies. Stop treating them like them.
Exactly.
So that's the
Um,
man, woman, NXT call-ups.
Braun Breaker.
How many do you think?
Braun Breaker.
Right.
Braun Breaker. I see Braun Breaker going to
Waller.
SmackDown.
Waller's getting called up probably.
Dragunov.
Probably.
I think he's
Tyler
being
Bate.
called up.
Roxanne.
Roxanne. I think
Roxanne,
she's
yeah.
ready.
Poor Jade.
Maybe Gigi.
Maybe Gigi's probably ready.
Fake.
Yeah, so and who's going to go back to NXT? Who could go down? Like
Gargano.
Gargano should. Let's face it, he's not getting over in the main roster.
Well, the only reason you would keep him on the main roster is if when Tommaso gets cleared to compete,
Who knows?
put DIY back together. But
Maybe
No,
maybe
even though Gargano's actually out with an injury right now, I think he suffered some hip injury. I want to say no, not hip injury.
It's a
He suffered
continuum of
shoulder
eight.
injury.
Yeah, it's another shoulder injury.
maybe Dexter going back to NXT.
Probably
I don't
not
know.
doing
Yeah.
it.
I don't know what they're doing with
Um,
Dexter. And another funny thing too is when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, since the NFL draft is coming up, I'm willing to bet WWE is going to try and parody it, where you have Adam Pearce coming out like Roger Goodell. He says the first pick in the 2023 for the WWE Monday Night Raw picks Roman Reigns, WWE Universal Champion.
Now, shocking draft picks, because there always has to be a shocker.
Mm.
Who gets drafted?
Who's getting split up?
The Street Profits. I think they're
probably
gonna get
Street
split up.
Profits.
Street Profits. That could happen.
Maybe
Damage Control.
Alpha
Even though they're
Academy.
choosing
'Cause Chad Gable's kind of getting a bit more of a
Yeah,
push.
Alpha
maybe.
Academy, Damage Control. They get split up.
I don't see the
Um,
bloodline.
But
get
here's the thing,
split.
though. If you split up teams, why would you care about the tag division? Because let's be fair, both tag divisions are very dry in WWE because you don't have that many teams in NXT to begin with, and even it's bad when Corey Graves even make a good comment every once in a while.
In the
When he
women's
says
tag division,
That's the women's tag division.
Yeah, the women's tag division is barren as all hell, and
the men's
both-
one is fine.
Both women's divisions are
Yeah.
barren. I just don't understand. Like,
Get rid of the women's tag team titles. Those are belts that should have
Thank
never
you.
came back.
Exactly.
especially in NXT where there's like no teams at all in both
Mhm.
tag divisions. There's none in the men and none in the women.
Well, the men's division's better. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
That-
because
that
you
works.
you have what? Gallus, Pretty Deadly, Creed Brothers, Anofa and Blade. You have those teams, Briggs and Jensen. But besides that, what other teams? Like, okay, you have the LWO, which, by the way, they have not really been featured in a good light at all. You have, what other faction do you have? You have Judgment Day. You have the Bloodline. You have
Brawling Brutes.
Brawling
Imperium.
Brute. Imperium. Yeah.
Yep.
You have all these factions, and yet you don't know what the hell to do with it. Where's Roderick Strong been? Where has he
Injured.
I
been?
think.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
injured.
I think now that you brought Imperium, I think Imperium's gonna be moved to Raw. I see that
I
That
think
could
we
be
could see the IC
And then
and the
Theory
US title
goes to
switch.
SmackDown.
Yeah, I see title goes to Raw, and the US title goes to SmackDown.
Yeah, because last night Gunther had the match with Woods.
Mm.
I heard that
Gunther's
was
about
really
ready for new opponents. I think putting the IC title on Raw would be a
Yeah.
good thing, so we could get fresh matches for
And
Gunther.
That
Give
would
me-
still a factor of all this stuff is ratings, because right now SmackDown has been beating Raw in the
Yeah.
ratings. So
Yeah.
that's where they need to start, really bouncing around some draw.
If they are putting Gunther in Raw, please give me a match between him and Lashley. I
That
will
would be
pay
awesome.
tenfold for that match.
maybe Lashley goes to SmackDown.
Because they got to put some stars on
Yeah.
SmackDown.
Right. If they're going to move a lot of established stars from SmackDown to Raw to help boost those ratings, they're going to do the same
I
thing on the other side.
see Damage Control being split. I see
Yeah.
that happening.
They have
I think Becky goes to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but
let's be real, SmackDown, the whole women's division as a whole needs work. But if we're still keeping two belts, SmackDown needs to help the most.
Yeah, because like beforehand there was like what 8 women on that roster. And now they got a little bit of a boost,
Honestly,
but that's not saying much.
I think Seth goes to SmackDown. He's
Yeah.
never been there.
No, he
No,
was.
he
He was there
primarily.
in, yeah, well, he was there in 2020.
He
Oh,
was
I'm
there
talking
2021.
primarily.
But that was like half the year though, because he was feuding with Ray and Dom, and eventually Buddy.
I
But
see the
I think
Judgment Day
there's
being-
also people say that Drew's going to go to Raw, probably for the best, because he was their top star. Besides when Roman wasn't there, Drew was their top star. I think moving him to Raw will be a really nice change. Yeah, Theory going to SmackDown wouldn't be that bad, because let's be real, Gunther's doing. They're putting more effort into Gunther than they are with Theory, in all honesty, because they've been featuring Gunther in a more prominent light. Theory on Raw, it feels like he's just there. In all honesty, that's just me. They haven't been featuring him properly. Yeah, you beat Cena, but Cena's part time. Everyone's beating Cena at this point.
And also, going back to the thing I was saying with Gunther, put Theory in the U.S. title on Raw or SmackDown. Fresh opponents for Theory to work with.
returns, because there's always a return during the draft. Not always, but there's always a return.
Who's been out?
AJ,
AJ could,
Miles.
yeah, yeah.
Randy.
Randy.
Randy, yep. Big E is still not cleared,
And I don't know if he'll
Kofi's-
ever
Kofi's
get
out
cleared.
hurt. Kofi's
Yeah,
out
Kofi's
hurt.
hurt.
Xavier Woods is a man on an island right now with the New Day. He had that good match with Gunther on SmackDown, so it's like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen with him? What can be done with him?
They could probably put Bate on Raw, Tyler Bate, because he's been having some matches on main event, so they may be putting him there. Probably Shelton and Cedric, maybe
To
on SmackDown.
Yeah. What about, depending on what's going on behind the scenes with Bray, maybe him if whatever's going on is settled.
Yeah.
But I don't think so.
I think Bray's ship has sailed by this point.
No,
Like,
I think
he had a little bit of promise, but I have just not. People are really starting to get tired. They are really, like, there's some people that are appreciating what his character's supposed to be, but I've seen a lot of people online that are like, okay, they need to start. What's the end game with it? Because people nowadays are really starting to get impatient with the whole
Nowadays?
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss she hasn't been cleared.
Yep.
What about LA Knight?
LA Knight. Here's what I see. What's going on with LA Knight?
They could put him on.
I think
Raw.
he'll stay on SmackDown and maybe give him the U.S. title. Or I've been seeing rumors he could be the favorite to win Money in the Bank this year. And I think that would be awesome for him.
That'd be a great thing.
Either way.
I was telling Scott that what if LA Knight won King of the Ring, LA King, but I doubt it.
Usos.
I don't see it, but it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. I just don't see that one.
Okay, if LA Knight does stay on SmackDown and Seth goes to SmackDown, you can have a feud between those two.
That would be great. The
Battle of
promos.
Charismas.
The promos. Holy shit.
And we'll talk about. I'm going to talk about Seth here in a little bit after the news that broke out last night. We'll talk about that, but that will be a hell of a feud and some decent matches as well. Bloodline may go to Raw. Judgment Day is probably going to be on SmackDown since Rhea is the SmackDown Women's Champion there.
Ray's on SmackDown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray's on SmackDown.
I think
Him and the LWO are having that feud.
I think Ray's gonna go to Raw. If Dominic is moved, Ray is gonna be moved too to continue the feud.
I don't know. There's more potential to keep that storyline going if they're on separate brands, and Dom just keeps showing up. Just kind of sneaks in on whatever show to get at his dad, and then runs back to SmackDown. Ray's like, "I'm going to SmackDown." No, you're not. You can't go there. What do you mean I can't go there? My son attacked me here. You can't go there. You're under Raw. We can't control what he's doing, but we're telling you can't go to SmackDown. And then he starts negotiating to get over to SmackDown to take on his son. And guess what? He gets to go to SmackDown. Dom negotiates with Raw. He keeps running. It's a constant chase.
They can, potentially Zoe Stark might get called up.
Zoe has potential, definitely, of.
Oh, if they take the North American title off of him, you can call up Wesley.
I don't know. He's got a good spot right now down there, so I'd say let him cook for a little bit longer before they call him up to the big shows. He's got a good spot there. With Dijak is down there too.
Apparently, Dijak and Dragunov are going to be having a feud.
That would be cool.
Those
are going to be some wild matches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully nobody breaks a finger.
Yeah.
If Dragunov gets drafted, depending on which brand he is, Gunther's gonna be there, and they're gonna start.
Then he's probably gonna be on Raw then.
Maybe start a slow build to Dragunov Gunther on the main roster, and Dragunov takes the IC belt off him in September.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that could happen.
There's a lot that could happen.
I'm definitely going to be watching both Raw and SmackDown this coming week just to see who's going to go where.
This is the first time I think there's been a consensus where people have said draft, and they're not like, "Oh God, not again." There seems to be
because we haven't had one in a while, and with Triple H and creative, it's
that's the factor. It's like, all right, whole new perspective now, whole new situation with who's in charge. Like, how are they going to work this out? And is he going to have those two specific creative teams to feed to him ideas about stuff? So,
I mean, honestly, I was thinking Kid Alliance get drafted, but she's injured, so
yeah she's still going to be down in NXT for a bit.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, again with Triple H, fans, are you happy now? Are you finally satisfied we got the confirmation he's still head of creative, and that the only thing Vince will have to do is if Triple H asks him for advice? So can we calm down now?
Yeah, can you chill, please?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the way it's been.
Exactly.
Check, please. Okay. I want to address the mammoth in the room. I have, for the past couple weeks, have been burned out on wrestling. I don't know if it's just the Mania hangover or what, but these past few weeks, not only in WWE, but in AEW, I feel like it feels like WWE is just kind of chugging along the Backlash, because look at that Backlash card. Who in the hell decided that Omos and Rollins would be a smart idea? They've never had an interaction.
I'm looking forward. I want to see that. I think it's going to be fun as hell.
I mean, Seth's putting the stomp on the Giant would be a cool moment, but it's like, why would you're advertising a match that none of those men have an interaction with, and you're expecting to have a match?
You're wasting time because of the draft.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, okay, I can understand the other matches. I can understand the Bloodline, KO, Sami, and Riddle. I understand that. Zelina and Rhea, I could sort of understand that because of the LWO.
Judgment Day
feud.
Cody, Brock, Theory, Lashley, Bronson Reed.
Yeah, they've been having a little bit of a contingency there.
And the 6-man main event.
Brock, with not Brock. Well, Brock and Cody as well, even though it hasn't really been confirmed on the page for some reason. But
it is confirmed.
Oh, yeah, they said it was confirmed.
It didn't pop up when I looked up on the Wikipedia. Right. But okay, that match is happening. I understand that. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that Omos and Rollins, like, there's no chemistry there whatsoever.
How do you know?
I don't know.
How do you know?
What, have you seen Seth work with big men? It can work, but sometimes it doesn't.
And?
I don't know.
Why are you worried about it?
It's probably just me being burned
Why are you
out.
worried about it?
Forget about it.
Forget
Forget
about
about
it.
it.
It's not your job to worry about.
Omos
Just
is not a great collie, people. He's way better than that.
way better
Still
than that.
green, but he's better than most giants.
Oh yeah.
Can,
For
can you?
sure.
Okay,
at
let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. Has there really been a really bad almost match?
No. The match with him and Braun at Crown Jewel was pretty fucking
Him
good.
and Braun, the
and
New
Brock
Day, him
was
and
good.
AJ at WrestleMania a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Come on.
Well, that's because
great.
Him
that's
and
because Omos
him
was
and Brock
doing
was,
much
was
Him
properly
at Mania was
structured.
great.
Him and
So-
Brock at Mania was structured properly.
Isn't it all come down to the performance and how the match went?
No.
Then yes. Don't you dare fucking say no to me, boy. It all comes down to
No.
Remember
skill.
who you're talking to here,
Yeah.
boss.
A
man who's been in the business.
Match comes out in the end. That's what people care about. Doesn't matter all the bullshit ahead of time about why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? This makes no sense. I don't get this. Wait till it happens. Then you can give your opinion about it. That's how it works. After the match, you'd probably be like, you know what? I didn't fucking think that was going to do shit, but wow, that worked out better than I thought it would.
God, another old man
the story.
yelling at me. It's just like my father again. God.
So, yeah, because
He's been in the business longer than you've been
one
alive.
mouth for a reason. Use these.
Yeah,
No.
that's right. Scott was in the business before I was even in my dad's nads. That's
Exactly.
My dad's nads.
My dad's nads.
That's a new one.
That's
Cuando
a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt. Dad's
Cuando
nads. Point
cuando
out.
estabas nadando ahí en las parecitas de tu padre ahí en los
Escojones.
Speaking of
You guys-
AEW, what in the hell is going on over there?
I don't know.
The Bucks and Kenny need to stop being fucking pussies and actually agree to do business.
Right.
Yeah.
Tony
Just-
needs to get
the
his
fact-
head out of the
The
Antarctic.
fact that Jericho has somehow politicked his way to be babyface in all of this is a
That tells you how
miracle.
good he is.
Somebody's even said Chris Jericho is becoming the modern equivalent of Pat Patterson in terms of politics. in his way.
Being Tony's right hand man.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh well, I'd rather Jericho than Punk or the Elite, so I don't care.
It just at the end of the day, everybody needs to say, Tony needs to be the boss and say you're gonna meet with them, or not only are you not gonna be EVPs, you're not gonna have a fucking job here. Simple as that.
Paid. You're not going to get paid either.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you either agree to
Well,
do
you gotta fix
business
this.
or you're out of here. And guess what? Good luck going somewhere else and trying to pull this.
This is going to make or break Tony as a long-term manager of AEW. If he doesn't handle this properly, then everyone's going to walk all over him. Daddy ain't going to do anything to stop him, and the company's going to fucking go down real quick.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to have this Saturday show that Punk's going to be the star of.
Supposedly,
You're going to have a brand split so that people can work together that they'll get along with. Because this is apparently elementary school.
Mhm.
And, oh, you were mean to me. You're not allowed in my sandbox.
Yep.
Fucking
Oh,
children.
wait. Did you
Who's
yell
right?
at me?
Children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you yelled at him. Here's a slap on the wrist and $4,500. Take it and enjoy your day.
Yep.
It's like this. It's like
Ridiculous.
not even that. The shows themselves have not been good. Like last week's show, I barely remember what happened. Like
I heard that was a
the
match.
title
Hogan.
situation
Oh, yeah.
is basically the European title at this point.
Mm.
Because what was the
Wait.
point of putting it on Hobbs with QT Marshall of all people? That was a terrible pairing. A terrible pairing. And you drop it to Wardlow this past week with Arn Anderson, which, by the way, Arn, I love you. Please get in shape. He does not look good. He looks rough. And
He's in
found
his
a rough-
mid-60s.
But
Yeah.
he looks
I
like
know,
he
but
ate
was
Arn
running
Anderson.
off of- he
That's
was
true,
running-
yeah.
he
The
was
belly
running
gets
off-
bigger when you get
in all
older.
due respect to Arn, he lost
Yeah.
his son recently.
Yeah.
You know how
That's
that can
fair. I
affect you
shouldn't be
physically.
as hard.
Right.
In that respect, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not something you think about all the time, so I get it. But it's
Yeah.
like, well, there is that factor too.
Well,
But
yeah.
it just comes down to more people care about the drama behind the scenes of AEW than the product that happens on television with AEW.
It's
Yeah.
kind
I
of
don't
like
wanna hear about it.
Like,
But it's like-
honestly, Like, honestly, with AEW, sometimes I feel it's a drag. I just see MJF, like, oh, it's MJF. After that, I'm like, oh, it's a fucking drag.
There's nothing else.
And I should know.
There's
I saw-
overexposure now
and I
because
should
now
know.
with
I
this
saw
future.
AEW. I went to AEW, 4.5+ hour show. God.
With this Saturday show, you've got a show on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And yeah, I count ROH as an AEW show because they don't have their own roster. If you're going to do some sort of roster split, it should have been between AEW and Ring of Honor. No. Tony is going to look 84 years old in the next year.
Yeah.
Because he's booking all these shows, plus he's got his NFL team, plus he's got his soccer team. Like, good God. You want to feel bad for him, but at the same time, he fucking did this to himself.
Yes.
Honestly, as much as I hate to say it, the Jacksonville Jaguars season last year was way better than whatever the hell was going on this past year. Jesus Christ, dude. Get your head out of the damn snow globe, wake up and smell the roses, and for the love of God, trim your unibrow hair. What are you, the Angry Birds?
With AEW, if this goes the way it's going right now, with Tony Khan being not much of a boss, I give him 3 years before Endeavor buys him.
I give him 2.
Yeah.
I give him 2.
Endeavor will buy everybody.
Yeah.
We all thought it was going to be
Imagine
Disney.
that possibility. Imagine that wrestling reality.
Yeah,
and could you imagine, like, if that happened, Endeavor buys AEW, and Triple H could do whatever the hell he wants with the talent? You know, the second he meets the Bucks, he's going to give them an ass chewing. The biggest ass chewing of all ass chewings.
I think the Bucks would just leave the business. I think they would just say, fuck it, going home.
And, you know, at the end of the day, ultimately, I said before that Tony needs to be a boss, and if that means losing the Elite, so be it. Addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
And plus, and let's be fair, the Elite have not meant anything. Like they're in a worthless feud with the BCC, and for some reason, this past week they brought in Kesha and for God knows what. So thanks for dragging in a really promising Japanese star there. It's just like it feels like no one cares about the product except for when MJF shows up. Like MJF,
and
was
even with
the
that,
only shining star on that show. He is saving this company.
You're doing a 3-man, 2-match tournament with the 3 other pillars, where it's going to look like MJF is buying Sammy's way through, so it's going to end up a 4-way anyway. Just announce it being a 4-way.
Yeah, don't convolute the hell out of it. And also, not to mention, that promo segment was one of the laziest promo segments I've ever seen. Like,
thanks, Walter, for showing me that. I really wanted to see that promo. Oh, God, that made
Which
that
promo?
Yeah. It was a promo with Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy, all trying to plug this 3-way, and it was long, boring, awkward. It was a chore to get through it, and it just hurt my soul. Because Walter tagged me in a Twitter about it. He's like, you want to take a look at this, dude? I'm like, oh my God.
Like, it was literally lateral rinse repeat from what they did a couple weeks beforehand. Like, it's like, okay, I understand you're trying to hype up and try to prove why you're world champion. Don't bore the piping piss out of your audience. Like, Darby, he's a solid talker. Sammy is annoying. He's annoying.
He's
no
a
one really
punchable face.
Yeah. He is a human douche, not to mention he's not that really likable outside the ring. And Jungle Boy, granted he's trying, but
he needs guidance.
Actions speak louder than words to him. Like he tries, but it's just again, I feel like I don't care about the show, and I really hate saying that because there's a lot of damn good talent on the show I want to love. I want to love AEW. It's kind of like
I think we all do.
Yeah, we all do.
This is a wild comparison. Remember when Brian Alvarez and Vinny were ranting and raving about TNA back in 2010, where they want to see a good Impact That's what I want to see. I want to see a good Dynamite because there have been some damn good Dynamites this past year. That first show in Seattle, hot crowd. Everyone, that was a damn near flawless show in my opinion. These last few weeks have been dragging. It feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks or whatever sticks. Okay, we're going with it.
The last couple of months have been dragging.
For wrestling in general. Like, it's
honestly,
not only WWE and AEW, it's just been in wrestling in general.
Honestly,
it's that fatigue. Boss was mentioning earlier. It's just fatigue after the big show. After WrestleMania, I was just fucking after watching Raw and NXT, I was like, I'm done. I got to take a break.
Yeah,
you know? There's so much on nowadays, more than there's ever been. That's why it feels like this. When I was a kid, way back in my day, boys, there was WrestleMania and then nothing until like Saturday. The following Saturday was Superstars and Challenge and all that stuff. Primetime wrestling was still just a roundabout show where they just had clips of other matches. So you didn't have all that. Now, all right, here's WrestleMania again. Now here's Raw, here's NXT, here's AEW, here's Impact, here's SmackDown, here's boom, boom, and it just keeps going and going. It's like, what's happening? Like, oh, stop! I can't take it anymore. So yeah, I feel.
And another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, and another thing with AEW that I wish they would stop doing, cut down on the goddamn work shoot promos. We thought WWE did them to death. AEW is fucking buried in 6 feet under, not in the Chris Barnes way. Okay, maybe the Chris Barnes way, but yeah, it just stop. You're not ECW. Quit doing work shoots.
Don't, and you're acting like WCW. Vince Russo in charge.
Like the worst part is it works in some ways, but it feels like they're just over relying on it.
Exactly.
And I was going to go back to what Scott was said. It's like, okay, you have Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, AEW, all these other shows. It's like you just want to go home, lay back, pop a brewski, have a little bit of a drink, and have a little bit of watch some popcorn, all that stuff, rub one off, and go to bed. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much my routine.
And that's kind of my routine too, Levi. You're not alone in that.
Except I don't drink, so there you go.
This wrestling fatigue is real, like Star Wars fatigue and Marvel fatigue and all the other stuff.
I mean, hell, I've even been saying it too. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming up, that'll probably be the last Marvel movie I'm going to watch until the next Avengers movie, and that's not for 2 more years. I'm so tired, and also I hate the decision-making they're doing with a lot of these shows and movies, so it's like, yeah, I'm just going to stick to what I like.
With AEW, AEW is going to change next year. If MJF does leave AEW, that's going to be the fall of AEW.
That's going to be the beginning of the end.
Because who else do you have? Like, yeah, you may have the future stars of yesteryear, but MJF, he is a one of a million. Like, if they are throwing a king's ransom at his ass, then good luck getting him again. Because I'm willing to bet
it's going to be all about the money.
To be blowing up his phone.
Downright. It started with Cody, then it went to Punk. MJF is the third strike. They lose him.
That's it.
That's it. Unless something miraculous happens, if Punk comes back and everything works out, then MJF may become, not as big of a factor. We don't know. Time will tell. We'll get there. But, the whole Punk situation is still going. The fact this motherfucker is still getting a paycheck.
Sitting on his ass.
Oh, it's just
on
wow.
TV.
Not to mention,
it's like so fucking Goldberg WCW 2000 type stuff. It's like, wow, what a sucker Punk found.
And speaking of Goldberg, that leads into a possible rumor happening. Goldberg potentially going to AEW.
Yeah.
No.
For the Wembley show, if Tony wants to sell tickets for that Wembley show,
sure. For
Wembley,
even
Tony?
if it's a one-off match, fine.
if it's one-off for Wembley, that's perfect.
Fine. Go right ahead. There's
Yeah.
one main event that can sell it all out. Jim Cornette said this on his show. One main event that could sell at Wembley Stadium is Kenny Omega and the Bucks against FTR and CM Punk.
Yeah, that's what everyone
To make
wants.
that happen, you got to sell out. But
We all want that match.
The Elite have to be adults.
They have to be adults. FTR are going to be like the calm ones here, and like we'll probably try to be delegating everything and facilitate everything. Kenny, Bucks, we're doing this. Phil, we'll do this with you. Everyone do this stuff, and then we'll get what we need to get done. Okay.
Although if it turns into a shoot in the ring, that'd be entertaining too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to want to see. That's what everyone's going to want to see.
Yeah. I wouldn't
That's
be
what they're hoping to
surprised.
see.
I would
Don't throw a punch, it lands for real,
Yeah.
and then all
I
hell
would-
breaks loose.
I wouldn't be surprised if somehow that does happen. It wouldn't shock me.
Hey, Tony
Levi-
would probably let it happen.
Levi, we know some people watch NASCAR just for a crash.
Yeah.
People would want to
Or-
see
or-
this just to see, okay, who's going to throw the first real punch?
Real punch. Yep.
It's kind of like
could've
hockey.
crossed the
You're
line.
mainly going there for
Is-
the fights.
Are the Bucks going to actually land a super kick for real?
They won't. They won't.
No, they'll have to ask
No.
Sean for permission first.
Mhm.
Or it's kind of like going to a football game. Sometimes you just want to see the cheerleaders take their top off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or somebody's going to really no-sell something bad. Like imagine Punk taking a Meltzer driver and then getting right back up and walking out.
Or,
In front of 70,000
Thousand
people,
Or-
people.
and
knowing
then just
Phil,
going to
he
Gorilla
probably
and
will.
saying I quit.
I quit. Yep.
or
Go
they're
ahead.
gonna oversell it. Or they're gonna oversell it.
Yep. Oh, Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan.
Shawn Michaels
Yeah.
effect. Yeah, the Shawn Michaels effect.
Go to the Shawn Michaels School of Overselling.
You got it. They could do
Knowing
that too.
Punk,
Or
knowing
you know what they could do? They can pull a Brian Pillman versus Taskmaster from the strap match. I respect you, Booker Man, and then he leaves.
No,
Yeah, Punk just gets up like after 1 or
that?
2 minutes of moves and lock up tie-ups. Punk goes to the mic, fuck you kids, I quit. And then leaves.
And then goes
for
through the
real.
crowd.
for real.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
That would
with
be
Punk,
a sign.
I do see Punk overselling the Shawn Michaels effect because knowing Punk, it's like, yeah, fuck you guys. I'm
Still
gonna.
at this point, he don't give a shit. He's
No.
mainly there for the money.
Yeah.
Which,
kind
I
of
mean,
like-
at the end of the
he's like
day,
Cole.
make your money, Phil.
That's fine. Make your paper,
Yeah.
boo boo. So
Tony Khan, grow some fucking balls.
Be a boss. You are the
Yeah.
boss, not a
He
doormat.
He can unless the Jacksonville Jaguars win a Super Bowl. So take that for what you will. Or will Shaq Khan actually grow out a beard and having that gorgeous mustache and actually step up and say, "Okay, son, you had your fun. I'm gonna have mine."
yep. Everyone
Because
say hi to your new
eventually-
boss, Eric Bischoff.
Because eventually, Dixie's parents came in and said, yeah, we're cutting you off.
We're done. Yep, you're done, sweetie.
So Shad at some point might be like, son, I'm cutting you off.
yeah, I'm gonna
and
call
good luck.
Shad right now. Hang on, I'm gonna call Shad. Long distance. Hang on.
Para español.
Right, yes. Can I speak to
Más que
Shad?
dos.
This is John Campbell from WWE. Yes, World Wrestling Entertainment. John Campbell, CampBell.
You're in Denver now.
Yes, John, Jon, no H. I must be on the list. Well, did you hear from my secretary, Mrs. Funk? Yes, Mrs. P. Funk. Yeah, Pamela. Yes, you did hear. Yes, you did hear from. Okay, yes. You don't have me? Is he out playing golf? Well, that's the code for it, but because I know Shad. I don't know if you know Shad. I know Shad. But Is that the code? Yeah, that is the code for it, right? Okay, yes. So, yes. No, just put me through. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, thank you. Oh, Shad. How you doing, pal? It's Vince. How you doing? Hello? Shit. He hung up. I tried. I tried. That's called committing to the bit.
There you go.
And I think on that note, that's a good way to wrap up this week. So, reminder that next week we will not be on live. Instead, next Saturday night, we're finally doing it.
We're recording it MST3K style.
Yay! I can't
Okay,
wait to be
heroes.
Art Donovan in
The
drag.
lucha de héroes.
Who the hell are these guys?
Ricky gets to do the whole thing in Spanish.
Safe to say our voices are going to be destroyed when it's all done.
We're going to have appearances from a lot of different people.
A lot of people are going to be here, folks. We're going
Holy
to get
It'll
the
be funny.
laughter down and read them all out.
It'll be fun. It'll be funny if Walt came in and all of a sudden he just plays Raven. I don't know about this guy. I don't know.
This guy sucks. I don't know, he's really good. Nah, but he sucks.
He's all right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We have Krusty a part of it, Terry
Barnes.
Funk.
Terry
Barnes.
Funk, yep.
Stu.
Stu, Shaggy Two Dope. Yeah, we're gonna get everybody in here.
Your
yeah.
mom probably.
Your mom, yeah. Get your mom in there. Actually, guy, Smart Mark, the whole crew.
Randy
Now-
Rosenblum.
Now, do I speak Spanish as soon as we hit record?
Yes.
Or once we
Yes.
started watching the pay-per-view?
When we watch the
you
pay-per-view.
are.
When the
Yeah.
pay-per-view, yeah.
Yep, because that's when the Spanish commentator comes in.
All right.
Wait, are we? How are we watching the pay-per-view? Are we watching
One of
like,
us,
on a-
I'll probably screen share.
We'll just
Okay,
screen it.
all right,
Screen
This is being
share it.
recorded. It's not happening live, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
He's going to screen share it and then go from there.
Go from there.
Wait, did we just say this? Oh, it doesn't matter. We're live, pal.
Hey, pal, we're live.
We're live to tape.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, that'll be next week. So there you have it with that. But before we go, it is plug time, starting off with the James Man.
You can subscribe to my YouTube at We Are Pro Wrestling. You can follow me on Twitter at WAPW_wrestling. And you can follow me on Instagram at We Are Pro Wrestling _YT.
Bash.
You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at BustleUp86, where I would do Raw, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite reviews, alongside of other wrestling reviews and wrestling predictions. On the other side, I am doing metal reviews and retrospectives. I didn't do an album review this week. I might do one tomorrow because there was a couple albums that I'm really wanting to check out. I did listen to the latest track from Black Metal Legends, if I could speak correctly, Immortal, with their new album coming out, and I think in a few weeks. That's going to be really damn good. And I haven't started working on my Merciful Fate retrospective, but I am going to be working on it probably by the end of next week. And you can also follow my dead Twitter account at capital B, capital A, NLP86, where I do nothing on Twitter.
Ricardo.
You can follow me on my dead Twitter, HorrorMaster18. You can catch me on my YouTube channel, HorrorMaster, which I uploaded the latest episode of the Controversial Album Series, where I discussed the original album cover of Appetite for Destruction. Stay tuned for next week's episode, as I'm going to be tackling Cannibal Corpse's Butchered at Birth. That's going to be a lot of fun. You can catch me on Levi's channel with both Shadow Kvlt and Worsen Podcast, and you can catch me on my Instagram at Arkaraman Metal God.
Scott.
Find me on my YouTube channel. It's Mr. Scott doing reactions and fun stuff on there. Also been doing a lot of quizzes on there too, so stop on in and have some fun playing along with me. Find me on Twitch, where I'm jamming out there every week and having good times on there making music. Find me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. I'm the most active here of anyone here. All under It's Mr. Scott, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And also find my merch store on my links on my YouTube channel and all the other stuff too. So come on by. It's a lot of fun.
And well, finally, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, ThrashManiac99. Getting closer to the 4,000 mark. Currently at 3,665. Aha.
Almost nice.
Yes. Where this morning I posted my review of the new Birdflesh album. One of the funniest albums I have heard in a long time. Basically, if you like classic thrash metal crossover and grindcore mashed together with some fucking hilarious lyrics where they reference band names and song titles, and even genre skip, like a song that's black metal, a song that's death metal, you're gonna love it. I fucking love it. Probably best grindcore album of the year, hands down. Tomorrow I got a review of a band I never heard of called Mesro from Sweden, who were a thrash band from the 80s that broke up in the mid-90s and just got back together recently. And spoiler alert, if you love Metallica and Testament, you're gonna fucking love this album. Holy shit. But yeah, that's tomorrow. Got Under the Radar this week, where I'll only be doing 2 albums. Still working on my Immolation ranking. That'll be coming out sometime in early mid-May, so be on the lookout for that. But that's all on the YouTube side, and then, of course, follow me on Instagram at thrashmaniac_YT, where today my Instagram has been blowing up after I did a collaboration post with a friend that's gotten over 500 likes. So,
Yeah.
kicking ass with all these collabs going on.
I'm next.
You're eventually gonna be one. You just need to ask me, god damn it. But
Do it on this, motherfucker.
yeah. But yeah, that's Instagram. And then finally, follow and or subscribe to me on Twitch at ThrashManiac99, where typically I'm only live for tonight, as well as on Wednesdays whenever I'm doing whatever crazy fucking gaming shit with some friends, where comedy and or what the hell is going on moments happen. Like, oh,
And
God,
if you
there were
subscribe,
quite a
you get
lot.
something special.
Yeah, maybe. But you won't know unless you hit that damn button. If you have Amazon Prime, you could use your Prime membership to sub for free. So there you
Free,
go.
free, free! Everybody loves free.
Gratis, gratis,
Yeah.
gratis.
You get a free Zev video.
She'd probably
Oh, God.
kill me if I...
Oh God! I'm just imagining that Zev in Spanish. How will that sound?
What?
But anyway,
Anyway,
until next week,
Until next
when
week,
we-
keep your horns high and
MST
dreams fled
3K.
where I don't even know if I'm going to make it out of next week alive.
boobies.
We'll see you then.
Eric
Hey,
Hayes.
kids.
Yeah.